Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Mighty Number 9. In the last one we took out more mighty numbers and now time for more of that.
Mighty Number 1, Pyro has been sighted near this oil refinery. Prevent a large-scale inferno.
This just in, an Avi News special report. I'm above the refinery now and searching for Pyro. I'm seeing a lot of flame-equipped robots. Keep them away from the oil, or things could get hot, hot, hot!
So this stage is a little interesting in that, from memory, this was one of the earliest demos they actually put out for the game, even on Kickstarter. This being their demo stage was a sign of things to come.
A fire-wielding robot running wild in an oil refinery. I don't like the look of this at all.
Not exactly ideal conditions, I'll grant you that. Quickly now, Beck. Locate Mighty Number 1.
So the major mechanic in this stage is that a lot of the floors are covered in oil, and if a fire-type attack from yourself or the enemies makes contact with that, it lights up and that becomes a damage space for some pretty hefty damage. This can be a very easy to die in stage.
Yo, Beckingsdale, what's the hurry? Where's the fire? Oh, right, Pyro. Let me fly ahead and try to locate him for you. Thanks, Avi. I could use the help. No problemo, Rudabecca. Catch you later.
Despite being Mighty Number 1, I cannot recommend starting with this stage without going after Avi first, because the thing he does to save you here is one of the most useful in the game. These enemies right here, by the way, are the ones that are going to be lighting up most of the oil throughout the stage, even if they're in the background shooting at it. I believe the fire isn't permanent in most cases. I think it does burn out after a while, but just be quick on your feet.
Pyro!
Burn! The world must burn!
Pyro, wait!
Warning, multiple incoming robots detected.
What? Where?
And it's confirmed. Pyro has gone rogue as well. Beck, you must hurry.
This is actually a section where Avi's attack can come in handy, not for the active offensive approach, but for the defensive by using it to shield you from the fireballs coming from above.
Oh my! Did you see all those bots? And such power! These designs of yours are something else, Will.
Yes, well, under the circumstances, that hardly feels like a compliment.
The pacing of the dialogue in this stage feels very different than the other stages in a way that makes it very obvious, rather, that this was one of the first things they put out for the game, because it makes it feel like the story was going to have a little more prevalence in some of the stages, like this battalion and, like, Countershade stage. The dialogue has a little more weight to it that the other stages just do not live up to at all. Also, Pyrosphere, voiced by Matt Mercer, another voice actor who needs very little introduction at this point, I feel. Time for the stage to get really rough.
Beck! Look out!
Heat has compromised the integrity of nearby structures. Please proceed with caution.
These falling pillars are instant kill and their hitboxes are super janky.
Whoa, no you don't! Talk about blowing your stack! Ha! Get it? I can't wait to tell Cryo that one. Seriously though, Pyro is just ahead, Beck. It's gonna get hot and heavy, so keep your cool. Got it. Thanks, Avi.
Thankfully, Avi will save you from some of them, but others not so much. And this is what I mean about Avi's ability coming in handy more for its defensive abilities and toolkit than a attack variation, because you can use it to both get past these bottomless pits and save yourself from the fireballs. Yeah, in terms of some roles that Matt Mercer's done, if you're not familiar with him, he's Crom in Fire Emblem. Critical Role exists, and he's a major DM over there. He was Leon S. Kennedy for a good while for Resident Evil. I think he just came back. And he's Yusuke in Persona 5. For now, time for Pyrosphere.
Pyro! Finally!
You! Why you not burn? Why you not burn?
Uh-oh.
Burn! Pyro crash, and you burn!
Pyro Sorry, I've been saying Pyrosphere this entire time. That's Metroid Other M being in my brain for some reason. So, Pyro without Avi's weakness is really rough because he charges into you and does heavy damage to the point where sometimes his dashes down the line when he turns his fire blue can be instant kill. Thankfully, Avi's attack will put out the fire, making him a lot less lethal in the long run, but be careful here all the same. This was a very poor choice for a Create Kickstarter demo entirely because of this fight alone, I think.
Come on! Snap out of it! Now! Beck, is that you?
Mission clear.
Not for nothing, I haven't talked about it too much. I do like basically all the character designs for the Mighty Numbers. I really like the little lighter aesthetic that Pyrogen's got going on. I just wish they were able to, do more things with them and that they were modeled better than they are here. Pyro's attack, I'm not a big fan of. It's got some okay damage, but it feels kind of counter for the way the game plays.
What in the blue blazes? Will, you mean this whole robot rampage?
Is all my fault. Indeed. Or, more specifically, the fault of a robot I developed long ago. The CDN-1201, Trinity. I designed her to evolve by assimilating other robots' capabilities. I found her custom scripts in the code we recovered from each of the Haywire Mighty Numbers. The structure is clever, concise. It's brilliant. There's no doubt it's my code.
But Will, how is that possible? Cherry Dynamics shut down the Trinity project ages ago. In fact, it was Dr. Blackwell himself who stopped it, wasn't it? Back when he was Cherrydyne's CTO. I always thought that project was the reason you left Cherry to come work with us and make Beck here.
Blackwell only saw the dangers. He never understood the potential.
Professor? Sir? Are you okay?
Oh. Oh, yes, Beck. Fine, more or less. Thank you. Zonda, I need some time to think. Can you handle Beck and the remaining Mighty Numbers?
Sure.
And things develop. So let's talk about Pyrogen's ability. Pyrogen's ability is very weird in that it feels very designed more for Mega Man than Mighty Number 9. Fire Explosion. Hold the attack button to gather power released to unleash an explosion around you. A small meter appears while powering up, increasing the power and diameter of the explosion with each level. You can use this attack when hanging from a wall or dangling from a skyhook, but beware, if the meter fills completely, you overheat, losing the ability to move for a while after attacking. Watch that meter. Axel shoot effects, increased attack, faster charge time, less energy use. It's powerful at full charge, but I seldom ever use it outside of going after the next Mighty Number because it just doesn't feel right for the way the game plays.
Mighty Number 2, Cryosphere, has been traced to this treatment plant, which subsequently ceased operations.
Pyro here. I'm in. Cryo's certainly done a number on the place. I'll be fine. But Beck, you'll want to really watch your step. This is one slippery situation.
From memory, I think this was the last of the stages I attempted first time on my first run, because I just saw it was a potential water level and I want to go in there with stuff.
What's this? The main entrance is frozen shut!
Beck, proceed east. I've located an alternate route into the waterworks via the reservoir.
And this underwater section does control like the usual Mega Man ones, but because you can dash, you can just completely skip whatever platforming section's beneath me. I've maybe done it once, I genuinely don't remember what's down there, because you lose no altitude basically.
Careful, Beck. Contact with any of that malfunctioning purification equipment could be fatal.
Yeah, there are some instant kills to worry about in this stage, but don't worry about them too much. So, what I mean about Pyro's ability feeling counter to the game. It's a lot like Atomic Fire from Mega Man 2, where you charge it up and then dash forward for some damage. And it does do some okay damage. But it takes so long to get to that state in a game where you're meant to be moving fast and getting high score, technically, that it just feels like it's counter to Beck's movement because of that. whereas things like Brandish, Battalion allows you to run and gun at the same time. Pyro feels like you're meant to pause and be more methodical with, which in an actual Mega Man game feels right, considering those are meant to be slower platformers that you can go fast in, but you're meant to take your time and absorb the level design in. Here, it just doesn't feel right.
What the? It's not just the entrance. The entire place is like one giant ice rink.
This is Cryo's handiwork, all right. Careful, Beck. You know how she loves her pranks.
So now it's an ice level. You do get a lot of acceleration when you dash jump, so watch out for that.
Well, nice to see you, Beck. You're on thin ice here, Runt, so try not to get cold feet, okay?
This mini-boss can be kind of fun as it bounces projectiles around, but as you can see, Battalion, again, just kind of melts most of the game. And there we go. Yeah, I bet that was a quick clear. Oh, hi, Pyro.
There's only one way to get past all this ice. Burn right through it! Beck, I'll get the waterworks back up and running. You take care of Cryo.
The ice blocks around here can be melted with Pyro's ability, but you don't really need to do that, so you don't need to worry about it like being a good way to get past any major hazards. Beck's own moveset's good enough around it. Also, think about it, I didn't mention it back then. I find it kind of funny how obviously Pyro's Berserk mode is meant to sound a little bit like Flame Hyanard, just not as extreme.
Okay, let's try this again. After all, revenge is a dish best served cold. Oh, you aren't hurt, are you, Beck? Here, let me put some ice on it.
Cryo, by the way, is voiced by Paige King, who, at least in terms of voice acting roles, is only Cryo in like 3 characters in apparently a CSI New York game. So, she's probably the lowest key person to my knowledge in this cast. She might actually have some other acting credits that aren't on, like, BTBA at the least, like maybe the other voiceover wiki or maybe just IMDb. But those aren't resources I tend to check unless I know the person is on those to begin with.
Let's fire it up! The waterworks is back in business, Beck. All that's left is for you to flush number 2.
Die.
Cryo!
You just refuse to chill out, don't you, Runt? Well, I'm sure it's nothing a little cold shower won't cure.
So that's why I called Pyrogen Pyrosphere, because I forgot Cryosphere is here just outright. So Cryo spends a lot of that fight in midair to start because she'll aim downwards and create an ice tower that she'll be on top of trying to fire at you from. If you touch a lot of her attacks, or even her herself in some instances, I believe, you do get frozen and need to mash out of it. On top of that, after a few volleys of what she's doing, she'll surround herself in an ice shield that's sort of like a spike ball and try to just land on top of you with that, which can freeze you and do some pretty heavy damage pretty quickly. This is the only time really where Pyrogen's attack comes in handy, because the explosion you leave out is good for not only taking her out on top of the tower, but for destroying the tower itself, period. Thankfully, she doesn't have a lot of health compared to some of the other bosses, but be careful all the same. And this is where she starts firing her buster in all directions to try and freeze you. Thankfully, you can dash through the ice stream at this point below her. Don't be like me in my first playthrough and think it's impossible to dodge that. You can just dodge right through it. And this is number 8.
Come on! Snap out of it! Now!
Beck! Phew! Am I glad to see you.
Mission clear!
Cryo's stage isn't that bad, but the boss can definitely be annoying, especially with the first time blindness effects in place where you're trying to absorb the combat pattern. Her attack is one I don't mind, I just don't use it a lot. It's a little more situational, but it is usable.
Stupendous job, Beck! Come back to base, and then, let's see.
Professor, we're receiving an urgent call from Cherry Dynamics. I will patch it through.
Sanda!
Sonda! Oh, Sonda. Thank goodness. Great Graham here.
Mr. Graham, what a pleasant surprise to hear from you.
Drop the axe, Sonda. You don't like me and I don't like you. But we need your help. It's our factory here. It's out of control. It's cranking out hostile bots and we can't stop it.
Confirming. Confirmed. Defective Cherry-Dine robots are rampaging throughout the city.
Gadzooks! That is not good! We'll send help right away. Right, William?
Yes, of course. But, Mr. Graham, one question. What makes you so sure Blackwell is behind this?
Sonda, who is this idiot? Whom else would it be, boy? That smelly old fart is obviously out for revenge. Now stop asking stupid questions and send help!
Whoa! Pleasant as always, that Mr. Graham.
Sonda, I'll take the mighty numbers and handle the situation at the robot factory. You take call and find Dr. Blackwell at the prison.
You mean go myself to the prison? Like, actually, physically go there? I suppose it's the only way to contact Dr. Blackwell under the circumstances. But are you sure you don't want to swap missions? I think you, of all people, would want to see him, right?
On the contrary, I'd be quite content to never see him again for the rest of my life.
At this point, we are technically in the equivalent
ahead and
of the
choose
usual
your next
end of
target.
Mega Man Fortress stages. However, you have a choice of doing the first two stages in any order. But first, let's talk about Cryo's attack. Frozen liquid shoots liquid that can freeze the enemy. Enemies hit by this attack move slower and take damage over time. Some enemies do not take damage over time, though. Enemies destabilized in this state are encased in ice and stop moving. Frozen enemies have a longer window for getting a 100% absorption rate. There are some enemies that cannot be frozen, including bosses. X-Cell shoot effects, increased attack, no change to continuous damage, penetrating shots, less energy use. For doing 100% absorption runs, this is honestly a really neat ability, and for some mini-bosses this is even very good, but because of how I played the game and the order I took stages, I'm not going to be able to use it a lot.
Who ever heard of breaking into a prison? But we need to talk to Blackwell, so come on, Call! Any prison built to hold a genius like Dr. Blackwell will be a tough nut to crack into. We'll just need to search every nook and cranny until we find a way in.
Time for what is arguably the worst stage in the game
You
because
are
it's just
all
such
set,
a pace
then?
breaker compared to the other ones, and that's in a game that already has a very uneven platforming pace.
System ready? Go!
All right. This must be the main prison building. Dr. Blackwell's cell will be deeper inside.
We'll need key cards to access the maximum security wing, Doctor. Please wait here.
So this stage is a little different than the ones as Beck, because we're playing as Call. It is a security card searching stealth mission, where the stealth does not matter. If you get spotted, enemies just attack you, and you can move on. In fact, you don't even need to engage with them, just look for the cards and keep moving. Call does have a little bit of a unique moveset, because her dash is a little shorter range, she can absorb cells, obviously. But her main attack is just a piddly little buster that I think does the same damage as Beck's, but you don't have to fight enemies as her, so it doesn't really feel like it matters. She does have one unique ability, though.
Whoa, a patch service bot! Perfect timing! Call, plug in to recharge your shield energy. Use that as fuel to power your energy barrier. Press the shield button to activate it.
Ready. Doctor, a question. Why was I equipped with an energy shield?
Well, it's, just, you never know. You know.
And that is Call's super unique ability. She can put up a shield that you're trying to avoid using anyway because you're trying to avoid combat as her, so it feels ill-placed. You can play as Call elsewhere in the game, namely in the challenge mode. There are some that are co-op exclusive. The second player plays as Call. And I think they use her abilities a little better there from what little I've seen of that mode, because no way I can convince anyone to play Mighty Number 9 with me. But it just feels like they should have made her as an unlockable, that you play this stage maybe during the campaign, and then you can play the entire game as her and maybe have slightly different levels to do there, but that expects way too much out of this game. Ironic, given this game set way too many goals.
Ah, yes, this door is locked electronically. One sec while I hack it open. Great Caesar's ghost! They found us!
Please focus on hacking the terminal. I will try to neutralize any threats.
And by neutralize any threats, they mean they're going to throw these enemies at us that are literally walking grenades and explode on a timer, so you're just trying to stay away from them. I can't help but wonder if maybe at one point this was going to be an unlockable stage or DLC. It just feels so ill-placed. Hell, these are some of the few enemies you can actually take out as Call. But you actually can't dash into them. You do need to literally shoot them all to death. Notably, in the case you're using her shield a lot, you are still using up cell energy up in the top left in the weapon gauge. But you can't absorb cells as Call, so the only way you can recover that is by finding another one of the little robots that she puts into her backpack at those certain little marks that look like checkpoints. These enemies, we saw one of them a moment ago, but we actually have to take out these ones. They're invincible unless they are attacking, in which case just jump up and shoot them, and eventually they'll get stunned and then they'll stab their own eye out.
Interesting.
What is it, Call?
I often detect an aversion to combat in Beck's vocal patterns, while I have no such reluctance. Question: why would Professor White include that hesitation in his design? It's illogical.
Yes, well, that,
Yo, Dr. Sonderman! Did you call from Call, huh? Thank the maker I reached you. I scouted up ahead and spotted a nasty guard dog. I'm talking one sick puppy. But I got a pro tip. Blast his big eye first. It's his weak point. Then go for massive damage.
Really?
It's not only Beck. All of Professor White's designs have such contradictions.
Now, I'm not one to necessarily hate on a game referencing memes. Hi, I'm a Guacamelee fan. But something in particular about them referencing that one feels weird. I mean, I think if memory serves, that was already a decade old when this released, and it didn't have nearly the staying power as, say, All Your Base and things like that, so it just feels like a very weird choice for one to use. Like, if you're gonna reference memes, make them either make sense in the game or make them at least somewhat contemporary to when the game was in development. Mind you, if any character's gonna do that, it would be Avi, just from the little characterization we see for these characters in the game already. The key cards are usually well placed enough to the point where you don't need to go super out of your way to find them. It's not a giant search level. Just destroy anything and any enemy along the way, and you're likely to find them all. Also, Call can hover by holding down the jump button, similarly to using Avi's ability even, which is fine. That is, unless a very poorly timed battery disconnect happens. Thankfully, that took only like 2 minutes to get back here, not even. It doesn't really impact my score that much. It's just that's the risk I run for doing live stream recordings. I kinda adore K9's design. So, like Avi said, attack the weak point for massive damage. Aim at the eye, it eventually gets destroyed, and the dog can no longer see you and will just bounce around the room randomly. But it's not going to be like that forever, because it'll eventually start doing a stream of bullets that you're completely safe from by standing underneath the job, until it ends the attack. After this, K9 howls, and one of those little helicopter enemies holding a box spawns. One of two things is randomly in that box. Either a grenade enemy you then need to shoot into K9 as it walks towards you, which will then do mass damage, or one of those little shield stealth enemies we've been seeing throughout. Your goal is to make it eat it for mass damage, but if it's one of the shield things, eating that will just regenerate its eye. But I believe no matter what, it'll drop one, then the other. So if you get the grenade to start, your next drop I think is guaranteed to be the security drone. Then it's another bomb and all that. So this is a fight that goes at a pretty set pace, which I'm fine with on the whole, given the stealth ideas this stage wants to be. I just wish there was actually, you know, more stealth elements to do here. Like a puzzle boss I think fits well for what they're trying to be with Call. Again, it just feels very weirdly placed. Again, this should have probably been an extra stage you get when you beat the game, or something else. There's so many ways this game is close to having something, but then just makes every wrong choice after that initial correct idea. And I'll get more into my thoughts when it comes to that during the credits, because the credits in this game are very long, but we'll talk more about that in a couple of parts. You probably just know, too, like, this was probably an idea for a gameplay thing they had very early on, and they just decided to never cut it from the scope of the game, and that's why it's here, and it just doesn't feel right because of that. Knowing when to cut something is a valuable skill, especially if it's something that might take resources away from things that need to work elsewhere, which a lot of the game does. Might as well mention this now as well. Call's design was actually a subject of a voter choice during the backing campaign. There were, I think, 8 or 9 designs shown, and the final design is a slightly altered version of the winner of that. And what's notable about that is a lot of the designs were made by the various artists in the team, and one of them, made by Kimo, I believe is the artist's name, was slightly inspired by their design for Roll they were making when Mega Man Universe was in development. It's just kind of funny thinking how many things kind of led to this game's existence, and all of it eventually just comes down to Keiji Inafune's very poor game design decisions, even during his time at Capcom.
Mission clear.
And we're not going to get a cutscene after this stage. We're not getting cutscenes at this point until after the second of these 2 stages we've unlocked. The weird little thing, and I kind of like this at the same time, because Beck and Dr. White are doing something else at this point. After this stage, in the stage select, the little patch robots are who's hosting it. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 5, we're going to go take care of the second of the 2 stages we unlocked today, as well as take care of the DLC stage. See you guys then.